Hello everyone, Ken here. Welcome to my 2015 Game of the Year Awards. I've put together a collection of award categories ranging from the standard to the silly, and I'm going to make a completely unnecessary attempt to rank all my favourites in each from the past 12 months. Now it was tough going, but I've cut every category down to 4 nominees and a winner. As always, bear in mind that these are all my own personal opinions, so if you've got something you'd like to talk about, then feel free to do so in the comments below. So, without further ado, let's get started. Best Music. Bloodborne. It might be an obvious direction to go in, but Bloodborne's discordant orchestral and choral score is still spectacular, and does a fantastic job of standing my hairs on end and sending shivers down my spine during those climactic encounters. From the soft, soothing tones of the Hunter's Dream, to the pounding drums and quivering strings of Dark Beast Parl's theme, or the harrowing choral nightmares of Upper Cathedral Ward, Bloodborne's soundtrack is the perfect cherry on top of its dark, atmospheric cake. Crypt of the Necrodancer. It shouldn't come as too big a surprise that yet another Danny Baranowski soundtrack is up for a Best Music award, but Crypt of the Necrodancer throws a little extra spice into the mix with 2 full alternative versions of the soundtrack. Bouncing around dungeons and slaying monsters in time to the catchy beats is a phenomenally clever mechanic, one which feels so natural to grasp thanks to the driving beats, and the addition of the singing shopkeeper is an inspired touch that never fails to make me smile. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Its licensed soundtrack certainly is phenomenal, but The Phantom Pain is also far from a slouch when it comes to original compositions. The Deployments theme is so fantastic that I was always pumped up by the time I set out in my helicopter. Mike Oldfield's Nuclear is wonderfully over the top and melodramatic, rolling up to a base in a mobile missile launcher while the final countdown plays, hearing the faint echoes of Hall & Oates in the distance as your evac chopper arrives. This game has it all. Splatoon. Splatoon is a game with a perfectly crafted aesthetic, and the soundtrack fits it to a T. It's weird, bouncy and wonderful, centering around squiddy J-pop themes but branching out into areas such as metal, funk, electronica and more. It's at times wonderfully bizarre and never anything less than a joy to listen to. In particular, they make incredible use of vocal style noises, such as the chunky bass line of the multiplayer lobby music or the Squid Sisters singing. Their remix during the final battle song still makes me throw my hands in the air in excitement. When the entire structure of your game revolves around dungeon crawling rhythmically to the beat of its soundtrack, that soundtrack has to be incredible. Thankfully, Crypt of the Necrodancer's music goes above and beyond in every respect. Danny Baranowski's core tunes are so good that they probably could have walked this category alone, but then they threw in 2 full soundtrack remixes, a metal variant courtesy of Family Jewels 7X, and a dance-themed take from a rival. The songs have a driving beat through them that helps keep you pounding along through each floor, lasting just long enough to give you time to explore but little more than that. The shopkeeper singing along works especially well because along with being phenomenally satisfying, it also serves the gameplay function of letting you know when he happens to be nearby. Given the roguelike nature of Crypt, it's also important that the songs hold up to a lot of repeat plays, yet I don't see myself ever tiring of its musical offerings. Don't be fooled though, while the soundtrack fits the gameplay perfectly, it also works just as well out of the context of the game. Just sitting back and listening to it excites me in a way that is truly magical. I can't fully describe with words how much I love it, so please just enjoy it for yourselves. Most compelling use of mechanics. Contradiction spots the liar. Contradiction's core mechanic revolves around interviewing the inhabitants of Edenton, jotting down their statements and then picking out any contradictions in their responses. It's a simpler and more elegant take on sleuthing than LA Noire managed, and I think makes for a more satisfying experience. Rather than trying to read facial cues or listen for stumbles in speech, hearing a claim and recalling a previous statement that can't possibly fit together with it makes you feel like Columbo. Their various reactions to being caught out are wonderful too. Just one more thing. Crypt of the Necrodancer. Dungeon crawling roguelikes are all the rage these days, and rhythm games have long been a staple genre of the medium, but I couldn't have imagined smashing them together and having it come out just as fantastically as Crypt of the Necrodancer managed. Keeping to the beat to maintain your combo forces you to move at a slightly faster pace than might sometimes be comfortable, so you really have to think ahead and plan out your moves at an incredible speed. The feeling when you hit that zen moment and carve your way through an entire floor of skeletons and dragons is tough to beat. Grow Home. Stumbling around Grow Home's brightly coloured landscape is simply delightful. Managing Bud's momentum to keep him from tumbling off the edge of whatever precarious rock or stem he happens to be navigating provides a satisfying challenge, while using the triggers to control his hands directly and clamber your way over dunes, up cliff faces and around the giant star plant feels tight and tactile. Trying to then employ momentum and yank a power crystal from under a tiny asteroid without plummeting through the sky afterwards is pleasingly precarious. Splatoon. The concept of a multiplayer shooter where the main focus is to shoot to the environment rather than simply the other team's players is a pretty clever idea. But while this could have just been a graffiti style paint the map situation and nothing more, the real beauty of Splatoon's design is that the ink functions as so much more than a scoring system. You move faster on it, you can dive into it to refill your tank, hide from a foe or move through areas of the map in new and unique ways. It's completely fundamental to almost every possible aspect of gameplay. These games all revolve around an immensely satisfying core feel, but I'm still completely blown away by just how imaginative Splatoon's design is. The simple back and forth of painting every nook and cranny of the map in your team's colours is already a ton of fun, and works well because it's something everyone can get good at doing, even if they aren't great at traditional competitive shooters. Incorporating the Squid Kid aspect is what makes Splatoon truly special, however. Flipping between your Inkling's Squid and Kid forms soon becomes second nature. As soon as a match kicks off, players spread out in all directions, with the obvious bright visuals making it simple to see what your teammates are doing and let you instinctively coordinate to cover other areas. Some players prefer to quickly splat an area ahead of them, then dive into the ink and sprint forward while refilling their tank. Others more methodically cover every part of a zone, ensuring they have the home advantage there should a fight break out, before moving on to the next area. Getting the hang of popping in and out of the ink during a hectic gunfight can turn you into a whirl squid of splatstruction. It doesn't take long before you're racing up walls, flanking the enemy team and stealing half their base before they realise you're even there, and it feels so good. Best multiplayer. Call of Duty Black Ops 3. For a series now so long running to have brought me joy year on year with only a few faltering steps is pretty impressive. Advanced Warfare changed the game a lot last year, at least in the COD world, with its jetpacking and strafe jumping, yet Treyarch once again learned from their fellow developers and integrated their own take on it into the super solid core that they've been building through their past several releases. Black Ops 3 hasn't captivated me quite like some past games in the series, but I think that it probably could do so if I chose to let it. Rocket League. Few games manage to hit the easy to pick up, impossible to master nail on the head quite as resoundingly as Rocket League. You can hand the controller to just about anyone with a basic knowledge of games and they'll be driving around and bashing into the ball and the other players in no time. Anyone can pull off the most spectacular goal or the most unbelievable save at any moment, yet doing so with consistency is a lifetime's endeavour. I've never played a match of Rocket League and not had fun, even the ones where I suffered the most hefty drubbings. Splatoon. Nintendo really struck an incredible balancing act with Splatoon. It's possible to be good at Splatoon, in fact, it's possible to be really good at Splatoon, but even if you struggle in direct encounters with the other team, you can still score big points and make the difference just by focusing on painting the map and outmaneuvering the enemy. Matches are short too, and teams shuffle between each round, so you're never stuck in a losing battle long enough to get frustrated. Getting that last moment comeback and snatching the win by a fraction is an incredible feeling. Star Wars Battlefront. If you want to feel like you're part of a big Star Wars movie moment, there's never been a better time than with the new Battlefront. Everything looks and sounds like the movies, and while they do occasionally take some creative license in the name of gameplay functionality, it's never enough to pull you out of the experience. Whether you're after a more competitive mode such as Drop Zone and Droid Run, or just want that grand scale Star Wars experience, Battlefront has you covered. I only wish there was a little more variety on offer in the core game's locations. There's a moment that happens in Rocket League where you just know. The ball arcs across in the perfect trajectory, the stars align and you know that this is the one. You hop in the air, tilt your car back, punch the boosters and drive a perfect shot towards the opposing goal. Then at the last possible moment another player comes speeding off the wall and batters it clear. What a save, great shot, wow! Rocket League's multiplayer is packed with these moments, and they happen whether you're playing for the 5th time or the 500th. They aren't all moments of grand skill either. Sometimes the most catastrophic miss or the luckiest bounce will have every player throwing their arms in the air and shouting wildly. It works in any form too. Playing with random people is a ton of fun, but when you're in a match with friends and your teamwork just clicks, it's the most wonderful and fulfilling experience. Matches are short, so you're never stuck in a bad situation quite long enough to get annoyed, and when you do get those close games, they're as intense as competitive multiplayer comes. There's a moment that happens in Rocket League where you just know. The clock ticks down to 1 second, the ball drifts lazily across the goal area, and you know that this is the one. Best mission or sequence. Okay, a quick heads up for this one. As you can see below, the 4 nominees here are Batman Arkham Knight, Bloodborne, Splatoon and Undertale. This is going to be some pretty heavy spoiler territory, so if you're planning to play any of those games soon, you may want to skip out on this final category for today. As for the rest of you, let's get on with it. Batman Arkham Knight, being the Joker. I didn't love the way Arkham Knight's central plots revolved so much around the Joker again, because there's a ton of fantastic villains and it felt as though that story had been told. The final moments, however, where you take control of the Joker as he infests Batman's mind, really work incredibly well. It starts off as a potent glimpse into his destructive potential, but quickly turns on its head and begins to expose his deepest fears. It also offers the unique perspective of facing the Batman through a villain's eyes. Bloodborne, Yosefka's Clinic. There are 1 or 2 early hints in Bloodborne that things are not as simple as they might have initially seemed, but it's when you reach the Forbidden Woods that everything starts to get particularly weird. Then you stumble across an underground path leading up to the graveyard outside Yosefka's Clinic where you first began your journey. Heading inside reveals that the helpful doctor has been replaced by an imposter who has been transforming humans into bizarre kin. It's the moment where Bloodborne finally begins to reveal its eldritch hand. Splatoon, DJ Octavio fight. The majority of Splatoon's campaign is a tad underwhelming, although it does provide you with pretty solid training for the multiplayer. Its best moments are its boss fights, however, and they certainly save the very best until last. The fight with DJ Octavio is genuinely challenging, putting everything you've learned so far to the test. Reaching the climactic final stage and having the Squid Sisters arrive to overpower Octavio's beats as you take down the dastardly DJ put the biggest grin across my face. Undertale, Flowey fight. Reaching the end of Undertale's neutral path sees you facing off with King Asgore in a battle where you have no choice but to fight him. Upon his defeat, Flowey, a small flower from the start of the game, arrives and absorbs the 6 human souls along with Asgore's, causing the game to crash. Reloading brings you into a fight with the now super-powered Flowey, who proceeds to destroy the player over and over, reloading the game each time until the human souls finally rebel against him. It's such a different encounter from anything else in the game, and caught me wonderfully off guard. There's a ton of memorable moments here, but the sheer unexpected spectacle of Undertale's final encounter with Flowey is absolutely the standout for me. His initial appearance at the beginning is certainly striking, and the game drops tiny hints towards him throughout the story, but the manner in which he completely overwhelms the player is sudden and striking. Forcing the game to hard close on each death is a neat design decision too, and one of the most direct ways in which Undertale acknowledges the player's existence outside of the game. You learn that prior to your arrival, Flowey was in control of saving his own state in the world and resetting at his will, but that you took that control from him until he was able to gain the power to take it back. He shatters your save state, meaning you can't do anything but return to be destroyed by him once again. Slowly but surely, things start to swing ever so slightly in your favour, until ultimately the human souls revolt against Flowey and allow you to stop him once and for all. You're then given the chance to do as he instructed and destroy him completely, or spare him once again, causing him to wonder whether he was wrong all along and asking you to prove that a truly pacifist run is possible. It's a phenomenal way to wrap up for what most players will be the first ending they encounter in Undertale, and set up what might be possible in repeat runs. And that's all the awards for today. Thank you for joining me. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to bop that like button and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more from me. I've been Ken, thank you very much for watching, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers!